Lal Bahadur Shastri. Lal Bahadur Shastri, pronounced lɑːl bəઃhɑːd, dear Sastri, listen, 2 October 1904, 11 January 1966, was an Indian statesman who served as the second Prime Minister of India. He promoted the White Revolution, a national campaign to increase the production and supply of milk by supporting the Amul milk co-operative of Anand, Gujarat, and creating the National Dairy Development Board. Underlining the need to boost India's food production, Shastri also promoted the Green Revolution in India in 1965. This led to an increase in food grain production, especially in Punjab, Haryana, and Uttar Pradesh. Shastri was born to Sharada, Prasad, Srivastava, and Ramdulari Devi in Mughalsarai on 2 October 1904. He studied in East Central Railway Inter College and Harish Chandra High School, which he left to join the non-cooperation movement. He worked for the betterment of the Harijans at Muzaffarpur and dropped his caste-derived surname of Srivastava. Shastri's thoughts were influenced by reading about Swami Vivekananda, Gandhi and Annie Besant. Deeply impressed and influenced by Gandhi, he joined the Indian independence movement in the 1920s. He served as the president of Servants of the People Society Lok Sevak Mandal, founded by Lala Lajpat Rai, and held prominent positions in Indian National Congress. Following independence in 1947, he joined the Indian government and became one of Prime Minister Nehru's key cabinet colleagues, first as Railways Minister 1951-56, and then in numerous other prominent positions, including the Home Minister. He led the country during the Indo-Pakistan War of 1965. His slogan "Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan, Hail to the soldier, Hail to the farmer" became very popular during the war. The war formally ended with the Tashkent Agreement on 10 January 1966. He died the following day, still in Tashkent, with the cause of his death in dispute. It was reported to be a cardiac arrest, but his family was not satisfied with the proffered reason. He was posthumously awarded the Bharat Ratna. Early years 1904–1966. Shastri was born on 2 October 1904 at the home of his maternal grandparents in a caste family. Shastri's paternal ancestors had been in the service of the Zamindar of Ramnagar, Varanasi, and Shastri lived there for the first year of his life. Shastri's father, Sharada Prasad Srivastava, was a school teacher who later became a clerk in the revenue office at Allahabad, while his mother, Ramdulari Devi, was the daughter of Munshi Hazari Lal, the headmaster and English teacher at a railway school in Mughalsarai. Shastri was the second child and eldest son of his parents. He had an elder sister, Kailashi Devi b. 1900. In April 1906, when Shastri was hardly a year and 6 months old, his father, who had only recently been promoted to the post of deputy tahsildar, died in an epidemic of bubonic plague. Asenti Ramdulari Devi, then only 23 and pregnant with her third child, took her 2 children and moved from Ramnagar to her father's house in Mughalsarai and settled there for good. She gave birth to a daughter, Sundari Devi, in July 1906. Thus, Shastri and his sisters grew up in the household of his maternal grandfather, Hazari Lalji. However, Hazari Lalji himself died from a stroke in mid-1908, after which the family was looked after by his brother Shastri's great-uncle Darbari Lal, who was the head clerk in the Opium Regulation Department at Gazipur, and later by his son Ramdulari Devi's cousin Bindeshwari Prasad, a school teacher in Mughal. In Shastri's family, as with many caste families, it was the custom in that era for children to receive an education in the Urdu language and culture. This is because Urdu/Persian had been the language of government for centuries before being replaced by English, and old traditions persisted into the 20th century. Therefore, Shastri began his education at the age of 4 under the tutelage of a Maulvi, a Muslim cleric, Budhan Mayan, at the East Central Railway Inter College in Mughalsarai. He studied there until the 6th standard. In 1917, Bindeshwari Prasad, who was now head of the household, was transferred to Varanasi, and the entire family moved there, including Ramdulari Devi and her 3 children. In Varanasi, Shastri joining the 7th standard at Harish Chandra High School. At this time, he decided to drop his caste-derived surname of Srivastava, which is a traditional surname for a subcaste of caste families. Gandhi's disciple 1921–1945. While his family had no links to the independence movement then taking shape, among his teachers at Harish Chandra High School was an intensely patriotic and highly respected teacher named Nishkameshwar Prasad Misra, who gave Shastri much-needed financial support by allowing him to tutor his children. Inspired by Misra's patriotism, Shastri took a deep interest in the freedom struggle and began to study its history and the works of several of its noted personalities, including those of Swami Vivekananda, Mahatma Gandhi and Annie Besant. In January 1921, when Shastri was in the 10th standard and 3 months from sitting the final examinations, he attended a public meeting in Benares hosted by Gandhi and Pandit Madan Mohan Malaviya. Inspired by the Mahatma's call for students to withdraw from government schools and join the non-cooperation movement, Shastri withdrew from Harish Chandra High School the next day and joined the local branch of the Congress Party as a volunteer, actively participating in picketing and anti-government demonstrations. He was soon arrested and jailed, but was then let off as he was still a minor. Shastri's immediate supervisor was a former Benares Hindu University lecturer named J.B. Kripalani, who would become one of the most prominent leaders of the Indian independence movement and one among Gandhi's closest followers. Recognizing the need for the younger volunteers to continue their educations, Kripalani and a friend, V.N. Sharma, had founded an informal school centered around nationalist education to educate the young activists in their nation's heritage, and with the support of a wealthy philanthropist and ardent Congress nationalist, Shiv Prasad Gupta, the Kashi Vidyapath was inaugurated by. Among the first students of the new institution, Shastri graduated with a first-class degree in philosophy and ethics from the Vidyapath in 1925. He was given the title Shastri Scholar. The title was a bachelor's degree awarded by the institution, but it stuck as part of his name. Shastri enrolled himself as a life member of the Servants of the People Society Lok Sevak Mandal, founded by Lala Lajpat Rai, and began to work for the betterment of the Harijans under Gandhi's direction at Muzaffarpur. Later, he became the president of the society. Independence activism of Lal Bahadur Shastri. In 1928, Shastri became an active and mature member of the Indian National Congress at the call of Mahatma Gandhi. He was imprisoned for 2.5 years. Later, he worked as the organizing secretary of the Parliamentary Board of UP in 1937. In 1940, he was sent to prison for 1 year for offering individual satyagraha support to the independence movement. On 8 August 1942, Mahatma Gandhi issued the Quit India speech at Gowaliya Tank in Bombay, demanding that the British leave India. Shastri, who had just then come out after a year in prison, travelled to Allahabad. For a week, he sent instructions to the independence activists from Jawaharlal Nehru's home, Anand. He served as an elected representative for United Provinces in 1937 and 1946. Political career 1947–1964. State Minister. Following India's independence, Shastri was appointed parliamentary secretary in his home state, Uttar Pradesh. He became the Minister of Police and Transport under Govind Ballabh Pant's chief ministership on 15 August 1947, following Rafi Ahmed Kidwai's departure to become a minister at the centre. As the transport minister, he was the first to appoint women conductors. As the minister in charge of the police department, he ordered that police use water jets, whose instructions was given by him, instead of lathis to disperse unruly crowds. His tenure as police minister as home minister was called prior to 1950 saw successful curbing of communal riots in 1947, mass migration, and resettlement of refugees. Cabinet Minister. In 1951, Shastri was made the General Secretary of the All India Congress Committee, with Jawaharlal Nehru as the Prime Minister. He was directly responsible for the selection of candidates and the direction of publicity and electioneering activities. He played an important role in the landslide successes of the Congress Party in the Indian general elections of 1952, 1957, and 1962. In 1952, he successfully contested up Vidhan Sabha from Sorian North Mughalsarai West seat and won by getting over 69% of vote. He was believed to be retained as Home Minister of UP. Shastri was made Minister of Railways and Transport in First Cabinet of Republic of India on 13 May 1952. He served as the Minister of Commerce and Industry in 1959 and Minister of Home Affairs in 1961. Shastri laid the foundation of Mangalore Port in 1964 as a minister without a portfolio. Prime Minister 1964–1966. Jawaharlal Nehru died in office on 27 May 1964. Then Congress Party President K. Kamaraj was instrumental in making Shastri Prime Minister on 9 June. Shastri, though mild-mannered and soft-spoken, was a Nehruvian socialist and thus held appeal to those wishing to prevent the ascent of conservative right-winger Morarji Desai. In his first broadcast as Prime Minister, on 11 June 1964, Shastri stated, "There comes a time in the life of every nation when it stands at the crossroads of history and must choose which way to go. But for us, there need be no difficulty or hesitation, no looking to right or left. Our way is straight and clear, the building up of a socialist democracy at home with freedom and prosperity for all, and the maintenance of world peace and friendship with all nations." Domestic policies. Shastri retained many members of Nehru's Council of Ministers. T. Krishnamachari was retained as the Finance Minister of India, as was Defence Minister Yashwantrao Chavan. He appointed Swaran Singh to succeed him as External Affairs Minister. He also appointed Indira Gandhi, daughter of Jawaharlal Nehru and former Congress President, as the Minister of Information and Broadcasting. Zulzarlal Nanda continued as the Minister of Home Affairs. Lal Bahadur Shastri's tenure witnessed the Madras anti-Hindi agitation of 1965. The government of India had for a long time made an effort to establish Hindi as the sole national language of India. This was resisted by the non-Hindi speaking states, particularly Madras state. To calm the situation, Shastri gave assurances that English would continue to be used as the official language as long the non-Hindi speaking states wanted. The riots subsided after Shastri's assurance, as did the student agitation. Economic policies. Shastri continued Nehru's socialist economic policies with central planning. He promoted the White Revolution, a national campaign to increase the production and supply of milk by supporting the Amul milk co-operative of Anand, Gujarat, and creating the National Dairy Development Board. He visited Anand on 31 October 1964 for inauguration of the cattle feed factory of Amul at Kanjari. As he was keenly interested in knowing the success of this cooperative, he stayed overnight with farmers in a village and even had dinner with a farmer's family. He discussed his wish with Verghese Kurian, then the general manager of Kaira District Cooperative Milk Producers Union Limited Amul, to replicate this model. As a result of this visit, the National Dairy Development Board in DDB was established at Anand in 1965. While speaking on the chronic food shortages across the country, Shastri urged people to voluntarily give up one meal so that the food saved could be distributed to the affected populace. However, he ensured that he first implemented the system in his own family before appealing to the country. He went on air to appeal to his countrymen to skip a meal a week. The response to his appeal was overwhelming. Even restaurants and eateries downed the shutters on Monday evenings. Many parts of the country observed the Shastri Virat. He motivated the country to maximize the cultivation of food grains by plowing the lawn himself at his official residence in New Delhi. During the 22-day war with Pakistan in 1965, on 19 October 1965, Shastri gave the seminal Jai Jawan Jai Kishan Hail the Soldier, Hail the Farmer slogan at a wing in Allahabad that became a national slogan. Underlining the need to boost India's food production, Shastri also promoted the Green Revolution in India in 1965. This led to an increase in food grain production, especially in Punjab, Haryana, and Uttar Pradesh. Major milestones in this undertaking were the development of high-yielding varieties of wheat and rust-resistant strains of wheat. Though he was a socialist, Shastri stated that India cannot have a regimented type of economy. His government passed the National Agricultural Products Board Act and was responsible for setting up the Food Corporation of India under the Food Corporations Act 1964. Jai Jawan Jai Kisan for the outstanding slogan given by him during IndoPak War of 1965. Ministry of Information and Broadcasting India commemorated Shastri even after 47 years of his death on his 48th martyrs. Former Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri was one of those great Indians who has left an indelible impression on our collective life. Lal Bahadur Shastri's contribution to our public life were unique in that they were made in the closest proximity to the life of the common man in India. Lal Bahadur Shastri was looked upon by Indians as one of their own, one who shared their ideals, hopes, and aspirations. His achievements were looked upon not as the isolated achievements of an individual but of our society collectively. Under Shastri's leadership, India faced and repulsed the Pakistani invasion of 1965. It is not only a matter of pride for the Indian Army, but also for every citizen of the country. His slogan Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan, Kisan, Jai Kisan, Kisan, Jai Kisan, Kisan, Jai Kisan, Jai Kisan, 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 I Kisan, 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 I Kisan, 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 I Kisan, Sin, Kisan, 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 reverberates even today through the length and breadth of the country. Underlying this is the innermost sentiments Jai Hind. The War of 1965 was fought and won for our self-respect and our national prestige. For using our defense forces with such admirable skill, the nation remains beholden to Shri Lal Bahadur Shastri. He will be remembered for all times to come for his large-heartedness and public service. Foreign policies. Shastri continued Nehru's policy of non-alignment, but also built closer relations with the Soviet Union. In the aftermath of the Sino-Indian War of 1962 and the formation of military ties between China and Pakistan, Shastri's government decided to expand the country's defense budget. In 1964, Shastri signed an accord with Sri Lankan Prime Minister Srivastava Bandaranaike regarding the status of Indian Tamils in Sri Lanka, then called Ceylon. This agreement is also known as the Srima Shastri Pact or the Bandaranaike Shastri Pact. Under the terms of this agreement, 600,000 Indian Tamils were to be repatriated, while 375,000 were to be granted Sri Lankan citizenship. This settlement was to be done by 31 October 1981. However, after Shastri's death, by 1981, India had taken only 300,000 Tamils as repatriates, while Sri Lanka had granted citizenship to only 185,000 citizens plus another 62,000 born after 1964. Later, India declined to consider any further applications for citizenship, stating that the 1964 agreement had lapsed. India's relationship with Burma had been strained after the 1962 military coup followed by the repatriation of many Indian families in 1964 by Burma. While the central government in New Delhi monitored the overall process of repatriation and arranged for identification and transportation of the Indian returnees from Burma, it fell under the responsibilities of local governments to provide adequate facilities Particularly in the Madras state, the chief minister during that time, Minjur K. Bhaktavatsala, showed care in rehabilitation of the returnees. In December 1965, Shastri made an official visit with his family to Rangoon, Burma, and re-established cordial relations with the country's military government of General Ne Win. War with Pakistan. Shastri's greatest moment came when he led India in the 1965 IndoPak War. Laying claim to half the Kutch Peninsula, the Pakistani army skirmished with Indian forces in August 1965. In his report to the Lok Sabha on the confrontation in Kutch, Shastri stated, "In the utilization of our limited resources, we have always given primacy to plans and projects for economic development. It would therefore be obvious for anyone who is prepared to look at things objectively that India can have no possible interest in provoking border incidents or in building up an atmosphere of strife. In these circumstances, the duty of government is quite clear, and this duty will be discharged fully and effectively. We would prefer to live in poverty for as long as necessary, but we shall not allow our freedom to be subverted." On 1 August 1965, the revolt did not happen, and India sent its forces across the ceasefire line, now line of control, and threatened Pakistan by crossing the international border near Lahore, as war broke out on a general scale. Massive tank battles occurred in the Punjab, and while the Pakistani forces made gains in the northern part of subcontinent, Indian forces captured the key post at Haji Pir in Kashmir and brought the Pakistani city of Lahore under artillery and mortar fire. The Indo-Pak War ended on 23 September 1965 with a United Nations-mandated ceasefire. In a broadcast to the nation on the day of the ceasefire, Shastri stated, "While the conflict between the armed forces of the two countries has come to an end, the more important thing for the United Nations and all those who stand for peace is to bring to an end the deeper conflict. How can this be brought about? In our view, the only answer lies in peaceful coexistence. India has stood for the principle of coexistence and championed it all over the world. Peaceful coexistence is possible among nations no matter how deep the differences between them, how far apart they are in their political and economic systems, no matter how intense the issues that divide them." During his tenure as Prime Minister, Shastri visited many countries including the Soviet Union, Yugoslavia, England, Canada, Nepal, Egypt, and Burma. In October 1964, while returning from the Non-Alliance Conference in Cairo, on the invitation of the then President of Pakistan, Mohammad Ayub Khan, to have lunch with him, Shastri made a stopover at Karachi Airport for a few hours. Breaking with protocol, Ayub Khan personally received him at the airport, and they had an informal meeting. After the ceasefire with Pakistan in 1965, Shastri and Ayub Khan attended a summit in Tashkent, former USSR, now in modern Uzbekistan, organized by Alexei Kosygin. On 10 January 1966, Shastri and Ayub Khan signed the Tashkent Declaration. Death. Shastri died in Tashkent, Uzbekistan, then Soviet Union, on 11 January 1966, one day after signing a peace treaty to end the 1965 Indo-Pakistan War. Many among Shastri's supporters and close relatives refused at the time, and have refused since, to believe the circumstances of his death and alleged foul play. Conspiracy theories appeared within hours of his death and have thereafter persisted. He was eulogized as a national hero, and the Vijay Memorial established in his memory. Upon his death, Gulzarilal Nanda once again assumed the role of acting prime minister until the Congress Parliamentary Party elected Indira Gandhi over Morarji Desai to officially succeed Shastri. After Shastri's death, his wife Lalita Shastri alleged he was poisoned. An epic poetry book in Hindi titled Lalita Ki Ansu, written by Krant M.L. Verma, was published in 1978. In this book, the tragic story about the death of Shastri has been narrated by his wife Lalita. The Indian government released no information about his death, and the media then was kept silent. The possible existence of a conspiracy was covered in India, by the Outlook magazine. A query was later posed by Anuj Dihar, author of CIA, Eye on South Asia, under the Right to Information Act to declassify a document supposedly related to Shastri's death, but the Prime Minister's office refused to oblige, reportedly citing that this could lead to harming of foreign relations, cause disruption in the country, and cause breach of. Another RTI plea by Kuldip Nayar was also declined, as PMO cited exemption from disclosure on the plea. The Home Ministry is yet to respond to queries whether India conducted a post-mortem on Shastri, and if the government had investigated allegations of foul play. The Delhi police, in their reply to an RTI application, said they do not have any record pertaining to Shastri's death. The Ministry of External Affairs has already said no post-mortem was conducted in the USSR. The Central Public Information Officer of Delhi Police, in his reply dated 29 July 2009, said, "This has created more doubts." The death of Lal Bahadur Shastri is considered to be one of the biggest unsolved mysteries of Indian politics. The PMO answered only 2 questions of the RTI application, saying it has only one classified document pertaining to the death of Shastri, which is exempted from disclosure under the RTI Act. It sent the rest of the questions to the Ministry of External Affairs and Home Ministry to answer. The MEA said, the only document from the erstwhile Soviet government is the report of the joint medical investigation conducted by a team comprising R.N. Chu, doctor in attendance to the PM, and some Russian doctors, and added no post-mortem was conducted in the USSR. The Home Ministry referred the matter to Delhi Police and National Archives for the response pertaining to any post-mortem conducted on the body of Shastri in India. Later, Gregory Douglas, a journalist who interviewed former CIA operative Robert Crowley over a period of 4 years, recorded their telephone conversations and published a transcription in a book titled Conversations with the Crow. In the book, Crowley claimed that the CIA was responsible for eliminating Lal Bahadur Shastri and Homi Bhabha, an Indian nuclear scientist whose plane crashed in the Alps when he was going to attend a conference in Vienna. Crowley said that the USA was wary of India's rigid stand on nuclear policy and of then Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri, who wanted to go ahead with nuclear tests. He also said that the agency was worried about collective domination by India and Russia over the region, for which a strong deterrent was required. Family and personal life. Shastri was 5 ft 2 inches tall and always used to wear dhoti. The only occasion on which he wore pajamas was dinner in honor of the Queen of the United Kingdom in 1961 in the Rashtrapati Bhavan. On 16 May 1928, Shastri married Lalita Devi, who was from Muzaffarpur. The couple had 4 sons and 2 daughters, namely Kusum Shastri, the eldest daughter, Hari Krishna Shastri, the eldest son, Suman Shastri, whose son Siddharth Nath Singh is a spokesman of the Bharatiya Janata Party and Minister of Health, Government of Uttar Pradesh, Anil Shastri, who is a member of his father's Congress party, his son Adarsh Shastri. He lost that election, but was elected in 2015 as a member of the Delhi Legislative Assembly. Sunil Shastri, who is a member of the Bharatiya Janata Party, and Ashok Shastri, the youngest son who worked in the corporate world before his death at the age of 37, his wife Neera Shastri was a member of the Bharatiya Janata Party National Executive. Other members of the family have also been involved in the corporate and social life of India. Legacy. Shastri was a secularist who refused to mix religion with politics. In a public meeting held at the Ram Leela grounds in Delhi, a few days after the ceasefire, he complained against a BBC report which claimed that Shastri's identity as a Hindu meant that he was ready for a war with Pakistan. He stated, Kuldip Nayar, Shastri's media advisor from 1960 to 1964, recalls that during the Quit India movement his daughter was ill and he was released on parole from jail. However, he could not save her life because doctors had prescribed costly drugs. Later on in 1963, on the day when he was dropped from the cabinet, he was sitting in his home in the dark, without a light. When asked about the reason, he said as he no longer is a minister, all expenses will have to be paid by himself, and that as an MP and minister he didn't earn enough to save for time of need. Although Shastri had been a cabinet minister for many years in the 1950s, he was poor when he died. All he owned at the end was an old car, which he had bought in installments from the government and for which he still owed money. He was a member of Servants of India Society, which included Mahatma Gandhi, Lala Lajpat Rai, Gopal Krishna Gok, which asked all its members to shun accumulation of private property and remain in public life as servants of the people. He was the first railway minister who resigned from office following a major train accident, as he felt moral responsibility. The foundation stone of Bal Vidya Mandir, a distinguished school of Lucknow, was laid by him during his tenure as the Prime Minister on 19 November 1964. He inaugurated the Central Institute of Technology campus at Tharamani, Chennai, in November 1964. He inaugurated the plutonium reprocessing plant at Trombay in 1965. As suggested by Dr. Homi Jehangir Babha, Shastri authorized the development of nuclear explosives. Babha initiated the effort by setting up the Nuclear Explosive Design Group Study of Nuclear Explosions for Peaceful Purposes (SNEP). He inaugurated the Andhra Pradesh Agricultural University at Hyderabad on 20 March 1965, which was renamed the Acharya and G. Ranga Agricultural University in 1996, and was separated into two universities after the formation of Telangana state. The university in Telangana was named in July 2014 as Professor J. Shankar Agricultural University. Shastri also inaugurated the National Institute of Technology, Allahabad. Lal Bahadur Shastri inaugurated the Jawahar Dock of the Chennai Port Trust and started the construction work of V.O. Chidambaram Port Trust in November 1964. He inaugurated the Sainik School Balachadi in the state of Gujarat. He laid the foundation stone of Almaty Dam. The commissioned dam bears his name. Memorials. Shastri was known for his honesty and humility throughout his life. He was posthumously awarded the Bharat Ratna, and a memorial Vijay Ghat was built for him in Delhi. Several educational institutes including Lal Bahadur Shastri National Academy of Administration Mussoorie, Uttarakhand bear his name. The Lal Bahadur Shastri Institute of Management was established in Delhi by the Lal Bahadur Shastri Educational Trust in 1995. The Shastri Indo-Canadian Institute was named after Shastri due to his role in promoting scholarly activity between India and Canada. Lal Bahadur Shastri Memorial, run by the Lal Bahadur Shastri National Memorial Trust, is situated next to Tanjampeth, his residence, when he was Prime Minister, at 1 Motilal Nehru Place, New Delhi. One of the halls of residence of IIT Kharagpur is named after him as Lal Bahadur Shastri Hall of Residence. In 2011, on Shastri's 45th death anniversary, the Uttar Pradesh government announced the renovation of Shastri's ancestral house at Ramnagar in Varanasi and declared plans to convert it into a biographical museum. Varanasi International Airport is named after him. The Lal Bahadur Shastri Center for Indian Culture, with a monument and a street named after him, are in the city of Tashkent, Uzbekistan. A few stadiums are named after him in the cities of Hyderabad, Telangana, Ahmedabad in Gujarat, Kollam in Kerala, Ghaziabad and Bhawanapatna in Odisha. The Almaty Dam across the river Krishna in northern Karnataka was renamed the Lal Bahadur Shastri Sagar. The foundation stone was laid by him. And the Lal Bahadur Shastri, a cargo ship, is named after him. The Reserve Bank of India released coins in the denomination of 5 rupees during his birth century celebrations. An All India Lal Bahadur Shastri hockey tournament has been held every year since 1991. It is a major hockey tournament. The left bank canal of the Nagarjuna Sagar Dam in Andhra Pradesh is named the Lal Bahadur Shastri Canal and is 295 km in length. Life-sized statues of Shastri are erected at Mumbai, Bangalore, Vidhana Soudha, New Delhi CGO Complex, Gorakhpur, Almaty Dam Site, Ramnagar, Uphisar, Vishakhapatnam, Nagarjuna Dam Site, Warangal, Nagpur, Wardha, Bokaro, Jodhpur, Hyderabad, Patna, Dhanbad, and other life-sized busts of Shastri are erected at Thiruvananthapuram, Pune, Varanasi Airport, Ahmedabad Lakeside, Kurukshetra, Shimla, Kasaragod, Indore, Jalandhar, Amhauran, Rahimpura, Dharamsala, Midnapur, and Bhopal. Some major roads in the cities of New Delhi, Mumbai, Pune, Puducherry, Lucknow, Warangal, and Allahabad and Ernakulam are named after him, as is Shastri Road, Kottayam, Kerala. There is a Lal Bahadur Shastri Medical College in Mandi, Himachal Pradesh, and Shastri Bhavans in New Delhi, Chennai, and Lucknow. In 2005, the Government of India created a chair in his honor in the field of democracy and governance at Delhi University. A portrait of Shastri hangs in the Central Hall of the Parliament House of India. The portrait, painted by Vidya Bhushan, was unveiled by the then President of India, Dr. Shankar Dayal Sharma, on 2 October 1993. In popular culture, Shastri's life and death, in particular, have been a subject of Indian popular culture. Homage to Lal Bahadur Shastri is a 1967 short documentary film directed by S. Sukhdev and produced by the Films Division of India, which pays tribute to the former Prime Minister. Agni Shastri Jai 1986 was also made as a homage to him. Jai Jawan Jai Kisan is a 2015 Indian Hindi language biographical drama film by Milan Ajmera. Titled after the popular slogan by Shastri, it portrays his entire life, from birth to death, where he is portrayed by Akhilesh Jain. Lal Bahadur Shastri's Death, a 2018 television documentary film by Jyoti Kapoor Das reconstructs his death. A film titled The Tashkent Files 2019, directed by Vivek Agnihotri, revolves around the mystery of the death of Lal Bahadur Shastri. Pradhan Mantri Lit, Prime Minister, a 2013 Indian documentary television series which aired on ABP News and covers the various policies and political tenures of Indian PM, dedicated the entire seventh episode Lal Bahadur Shastri to his term as the country's leader, with Akhil Misra in the role of Shastri. The 1967 film Upar by Manoj Kumar, which is based on the 1965 war, was dedicated to Shastri. Lal Bahadur Shastri, a 2014 Indian Malayalam language comedy film by Rajesh Midhila, is titled after the Prime Minister but has no apparent connection with his life.